Welcome to the second day of the Hydrogen Valley Days. Today, it's a day to hear from practitioners. I mean, today is really a day to hear about the stories of those that have somehow progressed already on their projects, but also to hear from those that are somehow facing some of the challenges that we all relate when it comes to advancing Hydrogen Valley projects. We have organized the day in a way in which we will give voice to all of those practitioners. We will start with a session now looking at what we refer to as more advanced projects that can tell their stories, their local achievements, their local successes, but also their challenges. And then we will address some of the main elements that we all know are affecting the development of Hydrogen Valley projects. We are going to be looking at permitting, we are going to be looking at the skills, and then we are going to be talking about, of course, demand. It came yesterday. We will have 2 sessions on that. We will be looking at demand for mobility, demand for industry, and we will be able to hear from those that have gone through this, those that are struggling, and to see how they are overcoming the challenges. And then we will end up with a session on financing. So we will cover all those elements. But to start with, for the next hour and before the coffee break, we are going to hear from 4 hydrogen valleys, as I mentioned before, advanced hydrogen valleys. And I'm very pleased to welcome to the stage to Gema Collado, who is the coordinator of the Green Hysland project. She's a director for sustainability and people in Enagas. And she will be presenting in the next 10 minutes their story to date about the Hydrogen Valley that they have done and implemented in Mallorca, in the island of Mallorca, in the Balearic Islands. And it's a project supported by the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. And it started, if I remember well, back in 2021, although the project has a much longer history. So, Gema, the floor is yours. I think, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much, Antonio. Thank you so much to the Clean Hydrogen Partnership for the invitation to today stay here to explain and speak a little more about our project, Green Hysland, in Mallorca. First presentation, my name is Gema Sanchez, like Antonio said. I am the People and Sustainability Director in Enagas Renovable, at Enagas Renovable in Niger. Please give me say something more about our company, like coordinator of Green Hysland project. Enagas Renovable is an energy independent producer in Spain, focused in 2 gases renovables, biomethane projects and hydrogen projects. In the figures that you see, in the image that you see in the screen now, you can see the different valleys we have in Spain now. We are presented in 6 valleys, in Bilbao, Corredor Boledao with Petronor, we are here with us and we explain later. We stayed in Tarragona and Murcia, or in Mallorca, of course, and in Huelva Corredor, Andalusia Corredor with Moeve. We are focused in the projects, hydrogen projects in Spain, but now we are not speak about EER, we will speak about Green Hysland. Green Hysland is the first industrial green hydrogen production in Spain. Some people can ask why in Mallorca and in other place in Spain. Mallorca is a exceptional location with a good climate and with a good place to live, but has some problem with the energy because it's an island and has got some limitation, like he depends of the fuels import, the high cost of the electricity, and this is some problem that have in an island, in similar island in other parts of Europe, and this challenge represents a great opportunity for Mallorca for invest in a clean energy transition, developing a new carbon energy that economy can sustainable more policies and more regulation in this plane for the tourists of the Hysland. Who we are in the Green Hysland Consortium? We are 32 partners. Oh, sorry. It's in the wrong. It's not the correct slide. It's the presentation because only have 3 slides, and we have 10. Don't worry. Don't worry, Antonio. Yes, I try to remember. Okay, don't worry. We are 32 consortium. This means that we are public and private entities, and including different specific defined action during 5 years. We started in this project 6 years ago. We started writing this project in 2019, and 6 years ago a lot of things changed in our consortium, but now we are in 2025. I don't know. Wait, I can use one. No. Okay, I try to use this one. Okay, this is the different asset that's integrated in the consortium. We have 2 photovoltaic plants, 1 hydrogen plant with 2.5 megawatts of electrolysis, and we can produce 300 tons of renewable hydrogen per year. This means that we can reduce the Hysland's carbon emission by 21,000 tons per year. This year is a good year for us. We have a very good news that we are in operation since March. In March 2025, we started with the operation of the plants, and we have next challenges, but the principal objective of the valley is to produce hydrogen, and we started this year. We have other assets important in the project, like the injection grid in hydrogen into the natural gas distributions. We work with our partner Redexis, and in 2024 we have the target that put into operation in August. Okay, and we have the final inauguration, the injection of the green hydrogen in September 2024. Other asset that's important for us is the tube trailer. We have in this project 2 tube trailers that the purpose of that is to cover roads to provide hydrogen to the end users. And other partner that's so important for us is the end user. In this moment, we have different end users. 2 with full cells. One is the Port Balear, and the other is in the Hotel Balearia in Bahía Iberostar de Palma de Mallorca. And the third end user is the public transport in Mallorca, MT, that we have a fleet with 5 buses moved with hydrogen, and this represents the 50% of the production of the productions. We stay now in operation, but we have a lot of challenge to obtain in the future because we need to increase the number of the stakeholders. During yesterday, and I ensure that today repeat the same message, it's necessary to create a demand for the green hydrogen, and this is now our REDS. But during the last 6 years, we have a lot of challenge, and we have too a lot of problems, as you know. Today, we stay here to explain you can solve all the problems and stay that the valley was a reality, not an idea. Some of the problem we have in this 6 years is, you can imagine, risk with the delays associated with the pandemic, because we started in 2020. Difficult engage with the public of takers, delayed in the procurement, change in governments, 32 partners is not easy to coordinate it, as you can imagine. But to be a pioneer project in Hysland, have a good result for us is learning a lot during these last 6 years. We have many changes, but always search a solution. For us, if someone asks me about what is your preferred lesson learning of this period, is that for each problem, always we search a solution. I like to say thank you, Antonio, because Antonio is our officer in the project, and always he helps us with all the barriers we have in the problem. It's good that you have someone to try to resolve all the problems and have always pushed you to continue the project. I have more the slide. The good that is the wrong presentation is only half free. This is only 10 minutes. It's okay. For Finnish, only one thing is that Green Hysland now is in operation. Green Hysland showed that hydrogen bodies are just idea. They are already happening. It's real, and you can replicate this model in other islands like Mallorca in European. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and sorry for the slides, because it was me asking, can we share this and these elements of the valley, but I think you covered it, so apologies it was not there. But I happen to spend actually a lot of time in Mallorca, and I think in this context, for all the issues that you mentioned, but there are two things, and you can, of course, imagine the amount of overpopulation we have in the summertime. We have all these 2 kilometers to the city center from where all the big cruise ships go, and they all have to be brought into the center. That's buses, that's really diesel buses, but then we also have all these tourists going from the airport to the cities. These are again diesel buses. It's hot. It's engines on all the night. So I think there is certainly a real need there to decarbonize and also to put means of mobility that are not only clean, but that are also in line with what people living there expect, because you cannot have this amount of diesel engines switch on 24/7 hours. So I think within this context, it has other means as well and other purposes to have. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. We will put all the detailed slides in the event website. Now I would like to call the remaining of the panelists. I would like to call, first of all, Jatta Jussila. She's the CEO of CLIC Innovation in Finland. And she's basically promoting innovation ecosystems, and she has over 25 years of experience in managing cross-industrial innovations and public-private partnerships. Jatta happened to be the coordinator of the Baltic Sea Hydrogen, so please, if you could come and join us the panel. Thank you very much, Jatta, for being here. Then I would like to also call Geerte. I think you are also around. Perfect. She works for New Energy Coalition, and she's the program manager of the Hydrogen Valley in Netherlands, the HEAVENN Hydrogen Valley, one of the first hydrogen valleys that we supported back in 2019. Now, she's involved in other Hydrogen Valley projects, which I think is very helpful, of course, to bring experience from other projects, and she's also involved in creating international hydrogen collaborations. Thank you very much, Geerte, for being here today. And then, last but not least, I would like to call Suarez, who is the hydrogen director at the Basque Energy Cluster, and he's actually the manager of the project management offices that is in charge of implementing the Basque Hydrogen Corridor. Thank you very much, Marcos, for joining us today. And we will start with some opening statements, which in this case we are going to be backing up with some slides for each of the projects. So I would like, first of all, Jatta, if you want to join the stage to present us a bit where you are with the Baltic Sea Hydrogen project. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And here, yes, thank you. So thank you for the kind introduction and good morning, everyone. And it's my pleasure now to briefly present Baltic Sea Hydrogen. I'm not so sure that I'm not seeing my own slides very well. But anyway, this slide summarizes Baltic Sea Hydrogen, which is a large cross-border hydrogen valley. We have 9 countries involved in the valley. The main valley, where most of the investment cases are located, is connecting southern part of Finland with Estonia, but we actively collaborate with the 7 other countries and their connected valleys. Together we have a goal to establish a fully sector-coupled international hydrogen economy in the region of the Baltic Sea. We have several investment cases connected to our valley. We have production cases, production of hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives, and we have several end-use cases as well. Some of these cases are directly connected and some not. So this is a really complex valley when it comes to the investments. And as not all the end-use cases are directly connected to those production cases that are inside our valley, so to say, we have already from the start started developing a market model that we would like to see through which we will then implement our vision of the hydrogen economy in this region. And this market model is then being transferred into a hydrogen pool exchange platform, meaning a transaction platform for all the deals that the companies make for offtake and production. It is designed so that it would cover both hydrogen and all the hydrogen derivatives, at least methane, e-methanol, and ammonia. So hydrogen pool is underway. This slide then summarizes our implementation roadmap for the production investment cases. We have 4 of them in our pipeline at the moment. The first one, which is by the company P2X Solutions, it's their Harjavalta plant, 20 megawatt electrolyzer, production capacity of 3,000 tons of renewable hydrogen per year, and main product being hydrogen, but a small fraction is converted to e-methane. So this plant is already in operation. Our second plant is by a company called HEAVENN, which is the energy utility company of the city of Helsinki. It's a smaller pilot plant of size 3 megawatts and 500 tons of renewable hydrogen per year. And that would be hydrogen for refueling, and this plant is under construction at the moment. Then our third plant is again by P2X Solutions. It's their Joensuu plant. They have an IPCEI decision for this plant, and we expect to get the final investment decision for this plant during this year, actually, already. It is a plant to produce both hydrogen and e-methanol. And then we also have a fourth plant, a very big one for green ammonia production in front-end engineering phase at the moment. So this is the status at the moment. So during the 2 years that our project has been operating, we have seen many changes in this pipeline. We have seen complete cancellations of really big investment cases. We have seen many delays and postponements of decisions and cases, and we even have seen our first bankruptcy case. And all these changes that we have seen, but so far we have been able to solve, as you can see, we still have a strong pipeline going and even a plant in operation. But the negative news that we have heard relate to this slide. They relate to the market conditions that we don't see that are in sort of properly designed yet. And for that, we do a lot of co-creation with our consortium, which is a strong consortium of 40 partners. One of the areas where we do co-creation is to co-shape the markets. We then develop these messages about barriers to transition and barriers to market that we see, and these are the barriers that our cases have faced. And since I don't have now time to go through all the details here, you will get these slides, but maybe to summarize very briefly. So the first key message relates to the fact that hydrogen it's not only an energy carrier, it should be seen as a critical raw material that can be utilized together with carbon dioxide to produce many products in Europe so that our industries could become clean in basically all their products. And they could all serve for the security of supply and autonomy in Europe. One example is the fertilizer production. We are very dependent on Russia at the moment on ammonia and fertilizer production. So hydrogen can play together with carbon a very, very big role in this when they are coupled. Then, I should go back. Then we should unlock the profitability. That means basically that we have to create demand in the European markets for hydrogen through different mechanisms, but we also need to support export of the clean products that the industries are then producing in Europe, following the more sort of strict environmental rules compared to their competitors in the global markets. The fact is, unfortunately, in the global markets, that the fossil products, the fossil gas and oil products are simply too cheap. It is impossible to compete with them in the global markets with these clean products. So we have to support the companies in creating this profitability, both here in Europe and in the export markets. And then the third one relates to regulation. So we would really need to break all the regulatory barriers in Europe. That means that the regulation framework should be designed so that it enables, and we should see really very much simplified regulation and certainty in regulation. So with that, I end here. Thank you, and look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Jatta, for sharing all of this, of course, for illustrating that real projects are already there. I think that's similar to the Green Hysland project. I mean, I happen to know them, pretty much using electrolyzer capacity with European, actually, providers of the technology. So to say that we put a lot of attention to try to, of course, go along with these developments by supporting a European value chain, and this is something we follow and we try to, of course, include in all the projects. Now, I would like to call Geerte to provide us a little bit of overview. I mean, HEAVENN, first Hydrogen Valley, as to call it like this, since 2020. So I'm sure there is a lot of learning, a lot of good, bad experiences. So what can we hear from you? Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm here to tell you a little bit about our beautiful project HEAVENN. We're the first official hydrogen valley, starting in the year 2020, which was not a good year for anyone, I think, also not for starting a large project. So we have had severe delays, but I'm very happy to tell you that we are on the way, more than halfway through our project, and so far it is looking positive. We do have its challenges, of course, but we also have a lot of really good results that I will share with you today. So I'm very happy to be here and to be able to share that with you. First of all, some more technical details about our project. We started in 2020. We run until 2027. We have 33 partners in 6 different European countries. We have an overall financial scope of around 100 million euros. And of course, we cover the entire value chain. So we have production in several locations. We have a lot of infrastructure. We have storage, underground salt cavern storage, as well as other storage facilities. And we have end users in 11 different sectors. And you see our beautiful cluster structure on the bottom. And the picture you see, that's a group of us with Antonio visiting our municipality who drive around in hydrogen waste trucks, which was a great adventure. So first of all, let me share some successes with you, because we often hear that these projects, they are difficult and none of us have off-takers, but we have found some off-takers. We have some in the northern Netherlands, we found some. So you see the barge boat Anthony, which is a salt barge, inland waterways barge boat, sailing completely on gaseous hydrogen, and it is able to sail completely on hydrogen. It sails from our port in Eemshaven to the Rotterdam area. It is able to refuel in both places. It is using existing hydrogen. There is enough. It has a large offtake. So I'm really proud of Anthony, I must say. You see infrastructure. We have a lot of infrastructure in place, but we are still awaiting the major infrastructural projects like the hydrogen backbone and the Delta Rhine corridor, which will really make an impact for our country. But on more local scale, we have a lot of infrastructure and pipelines in place. You see a hydrogen tiny house. When we started in 2020, hydrogen was still seen as also a consumer solution. So later on, it much more moved towards large-scale industrial solutions, refineries, hard-to-abate sectors. But in 2020, we said all citizens can and should use hydrogen. So we have a project that is building and selling houses heated on and powered by hydrogen. They devised a tiny house where citizens can come and see what a hydrogen boiler will look like. And people are enthusiastic. They like it, they think it's clean, it is sustainable, it is attractive to them, and they have such a good participation process that people sign up to buy hydrogen houses. So I'm not saying all houses should be powered by hydrogen, but for this specific area, hydrogen is a really good solution, specifically with regards to grid congestion. And they are actually able to sell houses on hydrogen. So that's a really great pilot project to me. This is in Hoogeveen. And you also see the corner, right below corner, is our test with underground salt cavern storage, which is a really extremely large underground facility able to store hydrogen, and it will be connected to the backbone. So by that, it will be a very easy way to balance our grid, which in the Netherlands is quite an issue. We also have some future successes. We had intended to build 2 different electrolyzer facilities, one larger, one smaller. They are both paused, which also has to do with large-scale off-takers. So in the first slide you saw some off-takers, but these are mostly smaller off-takers. So they are able to move faster. If you really look at the really large, like more voluminous off-takers, they're still really hard to find, and thereby our electrolyzer has been delayed. They had some issues with their supplier of the parts. But we're still hopeful that they will make it. We have hydrogen as a waste product in our area, so all applications are able to use hydrogen, but it would be nice if we also produce some hydrogen. We have our airport, which will build an HRS also to power all ground-bound vehicles, and it's underway but not ready yet. We have a gas turbine that is retrofitted to use hydrogen. They in particular suffer from a really high price, so they have converted completely, are able to use 100% hydrogen. Currently they used to use our local natural gas, now they use LNG, but the price difference between hydrogen and their current fuel is just way too high, so they are able to use hydrogen and they're not doing it, which to me is a really painful situation, but also very understandable from the owner side. And then we have our data center, which is supposed to use a fuel cell. The fuel cell is nearly in place, but they have no capacity to receive the hydrogen. So we now realize that we thought of in our project plan some really great ideas. This data center will be able to use hydrogen. Of course, they are heavy electricity users. Normally, they have a lot of need for backup power. So hydrogen would be a very good alternative for their power source. But now we realize that they need storage, they need a place to put the tube trailers, they need a system to get the hydrogen into the fuel cell, and as not in the project plan. So we do get some surprises as well. Overall, I would say we are doing really well. We have the same obstacles, I would say, as anyone has. So off-takers, infrastructure, and of course the current high price level of hydrogen. But I also see that we are overcoming them. I think the strength is in moving together. So one thing that I want to share, I also want to compliment Antonio, because he has been incredibly helpful. We have had many partners who said, we're not able to deliver as promised, so we're stepping out. And once you go into conversation with them, they say, well, we are still interested in hydrogen, we still see it as a solution, but we cannot execute exactly what we put in the description of work. And then we say, well, let's go back. What can you do? Will that still benefit our region? Will that still work towards net zero emission? Will that work towards energy independence? Will that work towards maybe a cheaper price of hydrogen, a stable, affordable energy source? Will it create jobs in our region? Yes. Well, maybe you can substitute it. And now the partner is still on board and extra motivated to start doing it. So I really want to compliment Antonio and also Clean Hydrogen for their willingness to see what is needed in a region and how we can move the hydrogen economy forwards. Because you can put it down on paper, but then 5, 6, 7 years later, reality has changed sometimes. And I think we can find solutions and still move forward. So for me, I'm very hopeful for this project. I see some really beautiful things going on, and it keeps developing. So we just recently received a subsidy for 70 new trucks in our area, hydrogen trucks, and it keeps happening. So we do hear some voices that say, you know, hydrogen is slowing down. Is it really the best idea ever? I think yes, let's keep some faith. So that's it for me. Hopefully some positive words, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Geerte, for the words. And indeed, I mean, First Valley, a lot of challenges also on our side, but I think it was mentioned yesterday, what we try not to accommodate the flexibility that this type of projects needs. They are long endeavors, and I think indeed a lot of successes. I think it's now really time to share with them with everyone, because there is a lot of things happening in HEAVENN, and I will put you some questions later on, so thank you so much. And now I would like to give you the floor, Marcos, to present a bit what is going on in the north of Spain, in the Basque Country with the Basque Hydrogen Corridor. So please, thank you.
Hey, well, first of all, thanks, Antonio, and thanks to the Clean Hydrogen Partnership for the invitation for being here with you today. As mentioned, my name is Marcos. I work at the Basque Energy Cluster, and I'm also the coordinator of the activities of the Basque Hydrogen Corridor. I do that, in fact, in collaboration with Manu Núñez. Raise your hand, please, Manu. Who is the Innovation Director of Petronor, the refinery of Repsol in the Basque Country. The Basque Hydrogen Corridor was set up in 2021, so it's, well, rather young, I guess, as many of the initiatives, in the Basque Country. The Basque Country, for some of you who might not know it, is a small region in the north of Spain, 2 million people, but very industrialized and very technological intense, okay? And that, I think, has something to do with how the Basque Hydrogen Corridor is, okay? It's a hydrogen valley, but there is a lot of focus in industrial and technological development. So it's not only about generation and off-taking, it's also about developing the components, the products, the services, the engineering. It's also an association. It's not limited in time, let's say, in which we have, let me check, 73 members, and 55 ongoing projects. So it's a conglomerate of projects. We cover all the value chain. As I will show you now in the next 2 slides, we talk about generation, we talk about transport, distribution, storage, we talk about use in mobility, about use in industry, and we also have like a more horizontal, transversal initiatives. In terms of what we've done so far, I would say that the start project of the Basque Hydrogen Corridor is a 3-phase project led by Petronor, which is 3 deployments of electrolyzing capabilities. Okay, the first one is in operation since the end of 2023. It's a 2.5 megabyte electrolyzer, which hydrogen is used for mobility and for supplying a technology park that is nearby. That was set up mostly to learn, and believe me, there is a lot to learn when setting up and operating an electrolyzer that is a technology that is not that mature yet, unfortunately. The other one is under construction. That's a 10 megawatt. It's a private-public collaboration, and though that hydrogen is going to be used for an e-fuel plant that will use hydrogen and CO2 from the refinery for doing eSAF for aviation. And last, we expect to take the FID precisely in just a few weeks before the summer. There is the last project, 100 megawatt, with 270 million euro investment, in which we have a grant from the Spanish government by Next Generation funds from the European Commission of 160 million euros. So these are like, as I said, this is the start project of the Basque Hydrogen Corridor, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. We are doing many more things in all of the other 55 projects that I mentioned in the beginning. I won't go through all the milestones that have been achieved in the last 4 years. I brought just a few in the slide, and I'll mention only one of them for each case. In the top left, I put some examples of milestones related to generation. I would like to highlight the one in the middle. H2Site is a startup with a very singular technology of palladium alloy membranes, and they are building the first factory of this technology in the world. It's a technology that is very singular in the sense that it allows to separate hydrogen, deblending, ammonia cracking. It's useful for many, many different applications. In terms of transportation and distribution, we have the first point-to-point 100% hydrogen pipeline that connects the 2.5 megawatt with the technology park I mentioned before. In terms of using mobility, we happen to have 2 bus manufacturers and 2 train manufacturers in the Basque Country. All of them are working in the alternative version in hydrogen of their buses and trains. And in that case, for example, I would highlight CAF on the right, which leading the European consortium. You can see there the picture of the first train based on hydrogen that moved around the Spanish and Portuguese railway. And last, using industry, we are focusing now, because we have 6 steel plants in the Basque Country, in trying to adopt the technology of using hydrogen in the steel making process, which you might know is not a simple process either. So in terms of combustion, in terms of preheating, we also have to develop technology there. Finishing the milestones, I would like to highlight the one in the center, which is the technology park I mentioned, which is, I think, the only technology park connected 24/7 to hydrogen by a pipeline, which is useful for backup, for example, which when we did it, we didn't think it was going to be useful, but then we had a blackout in Spain. I don't know if you heard of it. And then it's used also for testing purposes. And that's what we've done. In terms of what we are planning now, I would like to highlight that we are working in a large, let's say, hydrogen valley in a more orthodox sense, in the sense that we are connecting the 6 steel plants, 2 concrete manufacturing plants, 1 glass manufacturer with the refinery, and then we are trying to plan, still in the early planning, an infrastructure not only for hydrogen, I think Jatta mentioned it, also for CO2, also for oxygen and for water, to connect all the facilities and the off-takers as the big next step. And I think that's all on my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And also a lot of progress. I have to say, we are not providing direct support to the Basque Hydrogen Corridor, but there are 2 things which I think we might. But why do I say that? Because I think it also illustrates different ways in which we collaborate, and 2 things came to my mind. Of course, you've been actively included in the Hydrogen Valley platform since the beginning. I remember a few years ago you got an award for the Hydrogen Valley of the year. But then I also noticed Hydrogen Site. Now, I remember 8-9 years ago when I was starting to work in the United Taking, we had some projects looking precisely at membrane for separation of hydrogen in natural gas. And that was somehow the basis of the work that now H2 Site has put together through an SME. So I think our support, was illustrated or mentioned yesterday, illustrated now. It goes beyond the Hydrogen Valleys projects. We do supply all TRL levels. We do supply all components across the whole value chain of hydrogen. And I think here is another collaboration which, even if not directly through a Hydrogen Valley, it links and it somehow shows the impact that here in Europe we have. And indeed, we have a lot of collaborations with some of the people here, Tecnalia, Calvera. So I think that was very, very nice that you put that angle as well. So we are somehow gone through the first part of the session. I'm going to open the floor for the speakers in a little while. But first, I would like to do 1 question to each of you. And in terms of Green Hysland, I think pretty much now you have implemented your production plan. You have the distribution logistics with the trailers. You have the connection to the gas grid in place. You have the buses. Now, if you are looking at the market environment, right, and if you think how it was before, back in 4 years ago, and how it is now, and do you see a difference? And is it a positive difference? Because, of course, now we do have this technical implementation. It's been successful. But what is next? Do we have a better market condition? Do we have something worse, especially in the context of so many regulations that are coming on hydrogen from Europe? What can you say, and how does it impact your next steps?
Thank you, Antonio. Many things changed at the beginning of the project because it's 6 years ago and many things changed. Some very good, that you mentioned it before, because now green hydrogen project is a reality. We have a 30 that the green hydrogen project is a reality, and different instruments were born during these last 6 years, public and private entities born, like European Hydrogen Bank or different calls for other projects, Innovation Fund. In the case of Spain, we have a lot of calls in the last 2 years to promote the market and the demand. But so others not so good or not so fast. In the other hand, we have the delay in creating demand. maybe could be for the high price of the green hydrogen. This is the most varied we have in when you are looking or finding off-takers. When they ask for the price, this is the problem. Other is the long time for us in Spain is our case. I don't know if it's the same in the rest of Europe, but in Spain, do you need to spend a lot of time to obtain all the permitting for the constructions of the project? In special, environmental permittings is a long time to obtain all the permits. But so many things change. Some are very good. Regulation always asks for more regulation, more talent regulation that help us to implement this demand market. But if you look forward, there are a lot of regulation in the last 6 years. Okay, some very good, others not good, not so good, but a lot of change.
Thank you. And I move to Jatta. Of course, feel free to also comment on the market, but I wanted to bring also another element. So I'm going to, of course, give you the floor if you want to comment on the issues in relation to the market conditions you said before. But I also wanted you to expand a bit on the hydrogen pool. I mean, we will hear later on today on the market mechanism that the European Commission has developed, somehow trying to bring producers and off-takers. You are doing something somehow similar, and I wanted to go, how far does it go? Is it just matchmaking, or does it go also as a tool to be able to do some contracting through the platform? So if you could share some of that, because I think it's quite unique to your project.
It is microphone on.
Yeah.
Yes, it will be, the contracting will take place there and the transaction will take place. At least that is the vision at the moment. So it is not definitely just a matchmaking platform. It would really be something similar to Nord Pool maybe, but then of course some special features for the products that relate to the hydrogen transition. And as I mentioned in my talk earlier, not just hydrogen, but also at least some of the derivatives would be sold through that. And also the bilateral agreements, the companies that in our consortium have commented, at least some of them, that they would like the bilateral agreements to take place also, and then there is this side of like a stock exchange type of trading.
Okay. And who is behind, I mean, you will develop the tool itself, but who is behind that? Is that the gas regulator, or how are you working with?
No, we are, first of all, designing how the platform should operate and how the transaction should go. We are doing that together with our consortium, and then we have a software developer there, behind an Estonian one that is actually doing the technical implementation for that. And of course, since we are collaborating, for instance, with Gasgrid and Gasgrid Hydrogen Networks in Finland, so they are heavily involved in this work.
Okay. The TSO, the Gasgrid, or the DSO?
The Gasgrid, yes, the infrastructure operator is also involved in this co-creational work, and all the companies that are involved in our consortium, and even more broadly, because many of our project partners are hydrogen clusters, so they interact with their companies in their countries. So of course, then we will pilot this platform with many players that are active in different parts of the value chains.
Okay, thank
so
you.
at least, at the moment, the level of ambition is high.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. And it will have a regional scope if you want, hoping that maybe then it will be rolled out widely at the national level.
Yeah, we would of course like to discuss expansion then later on. Maybe that would be maybe a good topic for the next Valley Days if one of our platform designers would come and actually present its features. So just a suggestion.
Indeed, and I said this afternoon we will hear from Commission because they are trying to do something similar, maybe a bit shorter in scope, but Europe-wide. So I think it will be good to put the dots together. Yeah,
and then if I may comment briefly on the other, the market conditions, maybe I could add 2 points still to what I said earlier, is that of course the geopolitical situation has dramatically changed, and that has raised level of risk for all businesses related to this transition. So to manage this risk is not easy for any of the companies involved, and for sure that will cause maybe further delays in making investment decisions and so forth. And of course, also this has to do with the competition against the fossil world, as we should talk more about defossilization instead of decarbonization. So this competing against the fossil world is challenging. Yes, then I had another point that I almost forget already. I will bring that up later when I remember it.
No worries, it's fine. And thanks for bringing that. And now going to you.
No, I actually remember it.
Go on.
May I still?
Go on. Let's continue the flow.
Sorry. So many things to communicate that my brains get sort of stuck. Anyways, that relates to the regulation or the amount of regulation. So even though I said that we need simplification and certainty in regulation, that's for sure. But partly we actually don't have enough regulation to actually cover the entire market design that we need, both to create the demand in Europe and to also support the export of the clean products. So basically, it's kind of a twofold problem. In other ways, we would need to simplify and not go into details and more create regulation that sets the goals, and instead of selecting or going into tiny details about some temporal matching or things like that. And then yet we would need some more regulation to cover the entire market design.
Okay. And you were referring before to the CO2 as well.
For instance, and to couple and bring CO2, CCU, I mean bio-CCU, and utilization of recycled carbon, and that relates to the waste regulation. So we should basically somehow align all the regulation that is related to this transition.
Good point. Thank you very much. And now going to you, Geerte. I mean, you started the project, we said 2020, okay? And I think one of the, if you want, the starting points on the valleys and a bit of the narrative behind it is that we are going to develop ecosystems locally, regionally, you know, one here, one there. Eventually they will all be connected. Now we've seen that in the context of Netherlands. You started with HEAVENN. It's a valley, but it's also fair to say it can be seen as a program because you've shown before as a cluster. Now there is a time in which the backbone that you were referring to and that everyone is also talking about is starting to materialize. So I wanted you to tell us a bit the narrative behind that. Somehow you've developed all these smaller or projects of a smaller scale throughout your province. How and are you working with those that are now going to be implemented the backbone, and how important it is actually to start small and to somehow allow that backbone then to make sense also from an economic point of view? I don't know if you have same actors in charge of the backbone in the project or not. So I would like to hear a bit on that because I think it could illustrate well one of the concepts of why we have hydrogen valleys.
Yeah. Is it working? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone has a red light, and I do not have a red light. Okay, it's fine. Okay, I just got no red light. It's fine. How the backbone and the valleys is interacting. So they were designed in tandem. So our valley, the partner who is building the hydrogen backbone is our local gas grid operator, Gasunie, and they are part of our valley. And so all the clusters of our valley are located on strategic locations where the backbone will for sure be. And to a degree, they need the backbone. And this is also why I earlier said some companies are now realizing that they might need their own infrastructure since the backbone is delayed. It also has to do with maybe a little bit that in 2019, when we start thinking about the backbone, there were still a lot of variations where we could maybe mix some hydrogen and to what percentage, or just put an extra pipeline. There was a lot of discussion on the material of the pipeline. And so it has taken some time. We also had a lot of political unrest in the Netherlands. So it just has not been a smooth process, which means that the backbone, not the deadline, but the date on which it would be the build, well, it has started, but it is not. It is finished later than we had expected. So that means that you will have to have some flexibility and some different solutions, maybe some more infrastructural solutions where we just drive around with tube trailers instead of having your beautiful pipeline in place. It is very clear where the trajectory will be. So our valley and also the other valleys that are proposed, or the valley status projects that are in the Netherlands, are to some degree related to the backbone. So once it is operational, they will be very easily connected to it, and then the backbone is also connecting to Germany at different points. So for the Netherlands, that's a very important part. I think there is not much issues currently either for our valley or for the backbone, but one big issue that we have is that we need a lot of infrastructure when we want to import hydrogen. So the Netherlands is very actively looking to import hydrogen, but currently we have basically all infrastructure missing to bring that hydrogen somewhere. So we will have a port full of hydrogen, or worst case, ammonia, and no other plans. So we do need the imported hydrogen to start lowering prices. I think that is a given, seeing how our local produced hydrogen is advancing, it's not going very quickly. So we need that imported hydrogen, but we need the infrastructure. You need to build the infrastructure first, but the infrastructure is waiting for off-takers. Okay. So it's the same problem again. But for the valley, it is not, it would be good if it's there, but it's not instrumental.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And I think it's fair to say that, of course, the investments required go beyond what the Clean Hydrogen Partnership can do. However, and you brought the Gasun, you know, that they have quite an important role over the last 4 years in doing, okay, I wouldn't call it research, but development activities, looking, for instance, on one of the salt caverns to see whether and what was needed to make sure that the remaining storage capacity is ready for when the backbone comes, looking at how best to repurpose pipelines. I think that was also quite an important thing.
That's also part, and they're also building a hydrogen exchange platform, by the way, so we can exchange some information with it. Okay. Yes, Gasuni is, well, maybe that's the lesson learned from our side. A partner like Gasuni is an incredible feat to have in your project, and I would even say we would not have been able to build this valley if they were not part of it, because you need to develop it together. So,
okay. Thank you. So, Marcos, I would like to come maybe from a different angle, if I may, because as you mentioned, you are not just doing projects, you have really built up a whole ecosystem, no, in which, of course, you are quite an industrialized region, so you try to preserve that and to bring hydrogen into that. It would be very interesting to see how, you know, the whole Basque hydrogen corridor and has been set up in terms of what was the institutional support that you got? How has this been organized? I mean, you are now director of the program management offices. So how did you manage somehow to make sense and to really make sure that you capitalize on all the socioeconomic benefits that developing a hydrogen economy in the region can bring? I don't know if there is something you can say there, because I find it particularly interesting, because you are really going hand by hand, the technological development with big actors doing the investments, making all the different projects, but on the other hand, there is probably this support institutionally where you are really creating a network of enterprises, of SMEs, at the same time. So what can you share with us for some that were really looking at the same model?
This one works, yes.
As well.
Okay.
Oh, they all work.
Yeah, I'm just worried. Well, I would say maybe two replies to the question. First of all, from the institutional support, we were lucky, let's say, from the beginning, because as I said, the Basque Hydrogen Corridor is a public-private association, so we have the collaboration of the Basque government that has been involved in many areas, in the sense of not only being the Basque Energy Agency involved in the Basque Hydrogen Corridor, but for example the 10 megawatts electrolyzer I mentioned before is a collaboration between Petronor, Enagas, and HEAVENN, the Basque government agency, but also the regional government. All of them are involved in the technology park. So from that point of view, we're very lucky of the connection to the Basque government from the industrial point. I have to say, small stop here. You mentioned slow permitting, Gema. The grants in Spain are super slow also. A lot of problems there with other government. I wouldn't like to mention which one. And that, from that point of view, the relationship with the public institutions has been great. In terms of how we build, because it's true that I think we have a bit of difference in this sense with other hydrogen valleys. It's true that we from the Basque Hydrogen Corridor, we do a lot of networking. That might be easy, but as I said, we work in generation, transport, distribution, using mobility, using industry. For each of those verticals, we have 2 meetings a year, and the people get to know each other. And then, for example, when we talk about technological development, R&D development, the technology centers, you talked about Technalia before, there are many others. have a close connection to the companies, so we try to develop technology that's going to be useful. So that's something that is very, I don't know how to say, imbricated. It's part of the Basque corridor. I'm talking here about technology development, but in general, I would say that we have the lack of being small. Being small promotes or facilitates collaboration. And in that sense, having all these technology developers, these engineering companies, these operators, these off-takers, or potential off-takers, unfortunately at this point, some of them, in the same region allows us to have quick connections and to do projects together.
And one more addition on another topic. You've shown your plans, 2028, 100 megawatts. You show a little bit the small 1, 2 megawatts, 3 megawatts. How necessary are to start with those projects? I mean, now that you really can relate to that project has been done, you know where you want to go. Can you go to the 100 megawatt without going small? What can you share on that journey?
I think Manu should reply to this one. I'm going to look at you while I reply, so that I think I'm saying what you would say, is that I think it's super necessary. It's setting up and operating an electrolyzer is very, very difficult. There is a lot of problems that have to be solved. And going to 100 megawatts without having any experience before, I think it's...
Yeah. Okay, so I think I see Gema nodding.
It's a high risk. The first project is a big project.
No. Okay. Thank you. Then now I would like to open the floor for questions. I would like to see which questions everyone has. So please, we have one question here. If you can introduce yourself for the audience and say to whom you address the question.
Yeah, I have a question for Jatta. So I'm Michel Honselaar from Waterstofnet here on the Flemish Hydrogen Valley. The H2 pool, how open will it for learnings to other valleys? For example, the contracts, will you develop contract templates that will be in the public domain, like we have seen other organizations sharing such templates? Or how can we learn from you?
I would say that we try to be as open as possible, and that is something that we have to bring now back to our consortium to discuss, because it is, since we have been only now running the project for 2 years, so we are not yet ready with it, and things are, as said, under development, but the intention is to be very open, so we are happy to discuss further at what, well, maybe even during this year we could share something and start discussions. So maybe we can exchange contact information with you.
Thank you. Another question over there, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Isabel Abel from the Norwegian Hydrogen Valley Hysland in the south part of Norway. You have discussed a bit about the transition in the hydrogen market and also a bit about the offtake, and I will try to also make a connection to our discussions yesterday with the co-funding positioning. In the different nation states and regions, there is a collaboration with the Clean Hydrogen Partnership to make sure that we also have more local anchored financial distributions to support the Hydrogen Valley projects. How has that kind of continued within your regions to make sure you can build up the different parts or work packages of your Hydrogen Valley projects? Because from the Norwegian side, we see that as a bit of a difficulty due to being an EEA partnering country and not a complete European Union country, and then also our connections to the complete funding schemes that can be provided. And how that will affect the offtake and market opportunities with that co-funding that you may or may not have.
Okay. The question is addressed to whom?
HEAVENN and Spain.
In Spain, okay. So I think on the question, in the last one that you did, in terms of our support to Norway, there is no difference from other European Union. So that's...
No, it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same, so there is no restrictions there. So the idea is now, how has the funding of the Clean Hydrogen Partnership help to keep on going on these local initiatives, and how the co-funding it's basically an issue that
and the impact on the offtake
and
on
the
that
impact
side.
in the offtake. Who would like to take on that one? Please, Geerte. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll weigh in on that. For us, it has been quite a journey. So we received 20 million euros European funding in 2020. And the idea has always been to back that up with the same amount of national and regional co-financing. If I look at it now, we have at least reached that. I think it might be even 30 or 35 million of national and regional co-financing, but it has taken, it is still ongoing. So it has taken more than 5 years, and we have run in multitude of issues, most of them that the financial schemes are not aligned. So we have, for example, now we have a Dutch a funding scheme that will fund internal combustion engine trucks, but HEAVENN partners are unable to apply to it because they use fuel cell trucks. And then there is zero flexibility on that. So that makes it really hard. Like if there would be a bit more alignment, it would be so much easier. Deadlines are different. So we have funds that would have a deadline way before HEAVENN needs to be done. We have state aid rules, certain plateaus where you cannot go over. So it has been extremely difficult. It has aged me 10 years, I would say, but now we have managed it. So it is possible, but it could be a bit easier. And as for off-takers, yes, it does help if you generate 35 million euros. Yes, you will be able to get a lot of things going in the market. So that has been incredibly helpful, but it has been hard.
Any other reactions to the question? No?
Yes. In our case in Spain, the green hydrogen, we created a SPV for the hydrogen plant and for the photovoltaic. This receives part of the grant, but it's only 2.5 million of euros. The grant of Grand Hysland is 10 million of euros for different partners. In this case, the most invest is hydrogen plant and the photovoltaic, and receives only less than 10% of the equity of the investment. The rest of the funding asks for private stakeholders. In this case, is equity. Is the first project in operation in Spain. The stakeholder in this case is Enagas, Renovable, Acciona Energía, CEMES, and IDAE, public financial entity in Spain. They are sure about the green hydrogen, but it's so difficult to obtain other different of financial, like a bankability project, when you don't have a HPA signed. Because if you ask to the bank for money, the first thing that asks you is about the return of the projects. And it is necessary to have signed a HPA for half returns. Okay. Clean hydrogen bannets help us to start the project, but it is needed to other type of financing.
Yeah.
May I also answer? Yeah. Thank you. I also wanted to comment briefly that we have not seen in our valley problems with public financing. So many of our investment projects have gained even innovation fund decisions, IPCEI status of funding, and still they have then decided not to implement their investment project because of profitability problems. So in that regard, the public financing has not been an issue, but private financing to some extent, yes. Especially now we see that after this, when the geopolitical situation has become more and more difficult, then the private money is really conscious about risks and the profitability question. So. Just
Thank you.
in addition to yours comment.
As we are on this, how are you going about the funding of your projects, Marcos? I mean, how are they? Now you have the bigger plans where probably the investments will be the largest. Are you combining public funding? Is mainly private? How are you?
Yeah, well, the main project, that's the FID to be taken really soon, the 100 megawatt, that's 270 million euros investment, and there is 100, it's an IPCEI. So that was, in fact, we were talking about I was mentioning before the speed of the grants. The project was recognized European IPSE in late 2022, and we finally got the money, funded a grant of 160 million euros, a very significant grant, but in last May. So
160 million.
160 million support, so that's really, really positive. But it took 2 years and a half.
Yeah.
So, and the FID hasn't been taken because the grant, the fact that the grant was going to be there for sure wasn't there. So
basically, you have had this period of 1.5 to 2 years where you were delaying to the
because there was not the decision when it has been recognized already. But it was everything about additional documentation, and I think we have to be really more efficient from that point of view.
We hear that there is a need to streamline a little bit how private-public funding can be somehow coming together, in also especially in the public one, I mean, in a quicker manner. Okay, I have time for one very quick yes or no question, or just because I'm aware also of the coffee break. I have one question there.
Yes, hello, my name is Ivana. I'm from Eurochambers. I guess I'm addressing this question to Marcos, but I'm also interested in hearing from other panelists. So I would like to return to a point that was raised by one of our speakers during the welcoming remarks. Are we doing enough to involve SMEs? And so being advanced projects, I wanted to know if you already have lessons learned, or are you involving SMEs in your hydrogen valleys? Thank you.
Yeah, I think in particular the way our Basque Hydrogen Corridor Hydrogen Valley allows to have more involvement of SMEs because, in fact, when Petronor leads the association, the Basque Hydrogen Corridor, you have the leading organization there, the large company, but allows us to have among those 73 members, many SMEs that are more connected to the big companies, so they are able to understand better what they are looking for, and they are able to go maybe in large projects for which for them is more difficult. They have more support from also from the public institutions because they are part of the Basque Hydrogen Corridor. So when I mentioned before, for example, about technological development, H2Site, the example that I mentioned before, H2Site is a startup. I mean, they've gone from being 4 people to being 70 at this point, I think 200 in the next year. And they are a very small company that has been, not only, of course, but has been helped because they were part of this network that is the Basque Hydrogen Corridor, and they're involved in many of the projects that we are carrying out. And my own, I work for the cluster, the Basque Hydrogen cluster, and one of my main focuses is supporting SMEs. And that's why we collaborate with Petronor in this case, because it's a win-win situation for everybody.
Maybe it's fair to say, because maybe sometimes we relate to the big equipment suppliers of production plants, but let's don't forget, in a valley there is more. I mean, there is the trailers, there is the compressors, there is the pipelines. So I think what we see, at least in our portfolio of projects, is a very strong role of SMEs. Actually, the same SMEs we've been supporting for the last 15, 20 years, when they were putting their ideas and developing their products. So I think valleys comes as an opportunity for that, and it's true that sometimes maybe it's easy to say, okay, big producers of certain equipment, especially on the production, but let's don't forget that the rest of the value chain, and including electrolyzer, by the way, many of these companies were SMEs 10 years ago when we started to support them. So I think they become very important in this sense to give an opportunity to the SMEs also then to develop and to have a test bed, a real test bed to put their products. So we don't have time for more questions, I'm afraid, but the panelists will be here. And I will just go in a very quick type of let's close the event. I would not ask you for a wish, but I would ask you in 1 minute, what would you have done differently? Because there is here a lot of people that are maybe at an early stage of development. So if you look back, you say, look, it's all been great. Of course, the first time you do something, you always think in this way. You would have done something different. What would be one thing only? So the element that you would like to say, this part I would have done in this way, it would have helped. So if we can do a wrap up in 1 minute each maximum, that would be great.
Okay, Antonio, I think if I said now if something changed or something was easier than what we expected, I think I don't lead in if I say nothing was easier than expected. A lot of, as you know, the projects are alive, and this means that you have a lot of change. In our case, in Mallorca, we have changed with the teamwork, we have changed with the coordinator, we have changed with the investment. This means more money. We have changed with the planning. We need more time for the operation, that the project stay in operation, but never change the most important. This is the goal. All the consortium are commitment with the goal, this to produce green hydrogen and consumer this green hydrogen in Mallorca. But if I can change something for the lesson learning, is that when we started in this project 6 years ago, we started with a joint venture because it's not created the SPV of the company. And for us, we have some problems and use more time than normal for some change, because all the authorization are asking for other company, and late we must to change the grant changes, the term of the power of attorney changes. We need to create a board of director, and this is a lesson learning. If you presented a project first, create the SPV, and then submit the project, because we spend a lot of time to change all of these things.
The structure, I think that's important,
Yes.
and I think there is a lot of experience in the project, especially for those starting, how you will implement.
And the last one is when you choose the teamwork that work in the project is to be strong and resilient, because as I explained before, we will have during 6 years, and we need more years, a lot of change. And the teamwork who work in this project needs to be strong and to be resilient, and especially the coordinator, because he is or she is the leader of the project.
Thank you. Now, Jatta, in 1 minute.
Very briefly.
Thank you.
Yes, I would have maybe changed that we should or could have included more of cases that are combining the hydrogen and CCU value chain to prepare ourselves even more towards the supply chain and sort of development. We do have those cases already, but maybe that we could have strengthened from the beginning.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what makes the valleys strong and different is that it builds the entire value chain, but this is also its weakness, because everything is interdependent on each other. So if you have a big hydrogen source and it's not materializing, you have no hydrogen. So what I would have done different is have a backup, and then have a backup of the backup, and then a backup. So have 4 hydrogen sources, 4 large-scale off-takers, 20 bus companies, just take them all.
Well, that's what we normally look at in the risk strategy, which is, by the way, something we really look a lot when we are evaluating, but indeed. Marcos?
No, maybe our case is a bit different, but when we started the Basque Hydrogen Corridor, in our case, we didn't maybe realize so much about the value of connecting the companies. That's something that we started doing a couple of years ago, and there are lots of projects going on in the Basque Hydrogen Corridor, but many are born, many are new, and these are because of the connections between the component manufacturers, the engineering, the operators, the off-takers. And that's something we've already been doing for a couple of years. So that might be my advice, and maybe the other one is to prepare mentally for paraphrasing the Beatles, a long and winding road.
That's a good one. So thank you. Thanks so much. I mean, I think we could go on and on. I think there is a lot of things we could share. There is no time for that, but the panelists will be here, of course, for some of, at least part of the day. Few quick announcements. Now we will have the coffee. Next session is starting at 12. Sorry, I'm looking at the lunch now. At 11:30. It's a permitting session. I will ask the moderator and the panelists of these sessions to come to stage before you go for your coffee. And again, big thank you indeed, because I think it was really enriching all what you have shared. Thank you so much. So now we can go for coffee until the next session starts. Thank you.